Hi, Jake Smith for the House of Rohl here. In this video, I will show you how to install the rough, flush the valve, and install the cartridge and trim. As I do this, I will highlight some of the great features and benefits of the R46 multifunction system. The R46 is a 3/4 inch stacked valve with a 10 gallon per minute high flow rate. The upper and lower controls work just like the R23 rough. There are 2 dedicated functions and 1 shared function for each control. This is not a high-efficiency valve, so not suitable for California. This is the stud bay. This model is in wood, but you may see an installation of metal 2x4s in the field. The first feature I want to speak about is a plaster guard that protects the valve after installation and during the mounting of the solid surface or tile. A plumber will estimate the finished wall and then place the stringer accordingly. The installation depth is a generous 2.5 inches minimum and 3 5/8 inch maximum. The guard has clear indications to show where the minimum and maximum measurements are. The R46 has 4 outlets. There are 4 dedicated functions and 2 shared functions. The service stops are in the open position when you remove it from the box. To operate the stops, rotate the screw all the way in until it stops, and then you are in the closed position. You will also notice that there is a service plug for both the upper and lower cartridge that allows for flushing prior to the installation of the actual pressure balance cartridge. The cartridge will be supplied with a trim. This service-saving step prevents the cartridge from being damaged prior to flushing. If the valve is to be installed with copper, remove the service plug to prevent any damage to the plug. Removing the plastic guard, we see the service plugs. The reason there are service plugs is to allow the installer to remove the plug, flush the valve, and then install the cartridge. The cartridge is designed to last 5 to 7 years with normal use, but will fail quickly if debris is allowed into the cartridge through an unflushed hot or cold inlet. To turn off the stops, screw the stop screw all the way in at the hot and the cold cartridge located here. At this point, insert some rags into the opening in the wall to avoid any water getting inside the finished wall. To remove the nut, use a wrench and have a rag handy to avoid being sprayed by any trapped pressure in the line. After the nuts are off, remove the plugs and discard them. To flush the valve, cover the cartridge openings and open each stop approximately 20 seconds each to flush the rough. Once the valve has been flushed thoroughly, we are now ready to install the thermostatic pressure balance cartridge. The pressure balance cartridges are color-coded, blue for cold and red for hot. The red always goes onto the left side. Make sure that you insert them into the cavity properly. Next, spin on the cartridge nut. This cartridge nut goes on hand tight before final tightening. This is probably the most important part of this installation. The danger here is over tightening the cartridge. You saw me put these in hand tight, and now I am drawing a line on the cartridge body and on the nut itself. The reason I am doing this is because you can over tighten these nuts, and if these nuts are over tightened, then the handle will operate stiffly. Once the line has been drawn, we rotate the nut from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock on the upper and on the lower cartridge. We can tighten this much more, but we don't want to do this. As I said before, this causes a stiff handle during the operation of the valve, but at this point we're ready to turn on the stops and test the functions. As we saw before, the cartridges themselves were color-coded, and this valve, along with the R23, you can actually use in a back-to-back installation, as you may take the cartridge and flip it 180 degrees if you happen to share a supply line. We're going to slide the finished tube onto the body with the weep hole pointing down. Next, install and tighten the sleeve nut. The sleeve nut only needs to be put on hand tight. Next, we install the plate. You will notice on the plate that the logo will always go at 6 o'clock. This is a two-function valve off the top and off the bottom. Once the plate is into position, we will put some silicone around the edges, but not at the 6 o'clock position on the bottom. Next, we will install the volume control and thermostatic control. You will see that in this particular trim set, it is all one piece, and that there are two set screws on the bottom that will hold the whole assembly into place. When you're installing this, make sure that the diverter portion of itself is actually at 6 o'clock. You slip it onto the cartridge sleeve and then tighten with a 2mm wrench. As you're tightening the two set screws that are on the bottom, alternate so that each set screw has an equal amount of pressure on each side. This is the second most critical operation for the installation of the valve and the trim set to me. If these set screws are not in the proper position or rotated to the correct pressure, on turning the handle, the diverter handle itself, you will notice that it may slip and then not operate properly. Once the handles are in place, there are the open screw holes for the Allen keys, and there are small screw cover caps that can be installed to cover the screw holes. The R46 is a high-flow thermostatic pressure balance valve that flows at 10 gallons per minute. As you see behind me, there is a stacked valve. You see an upper handle and a lower handle. The upper handle actually controls the shower head and the hand shower that's on the left. The lower handle controls the shower head and the hand shower that's on the right. As we turn the handle on the upper control from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock, this turns on the shower head. This is the first function of 3 functions that's on this upper control. As we turn from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock, this mixes the functions between the shower head and the hand shower. This is the mixed function with the shower head and the hand shower running together. And finally, when we turn the control to 9 o'clock, the hand shower will run by itself. And then rotating from 9 o'clock to 6 o'clock turns the upper control off. The lower control works exactly the same. Rotating from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock, the shower head goes on. And then from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock, this mixes in the hand shower. And then from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock, this will be the hand shower by itself. And then again, rotating from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock, turns the bottom control off. The handles themselves can be rotated either clockwise or anti-clockwise.